J Spot Jack Cheese, Cat Pack Comics, and Mr. Branagh. Can we not do the angle? Can we just lay it flat like how I normally do it? No, I no, I don't really get why it's needed. Like, I'm just talking to the camera. It's the same thing. I do it every week. It doesn't have to be complex or anything. It's no, Mr. Branagh, Mr. Branagh, Kenneth, Ken. I'm just gonna do it. Okay, I'm just gonna lay it. I'm just gonna do my thing. Okay, just no. I'm doing it. Thor has been the most interesting one to watch in retrospect. I probably only saw it once, and it wasn't. I didn't see this one in theaters. Probably a little bit before the Avengers, trying to play catch up. It's interesting partly because of, I guess, how bold Marvel was at the time when it was still not quite the super successful powerhouse that it is now, to make a fantasy, spacey type movie. And I think ultimately it works. I don't love the movie. I don't really know. It's just not super engaging to me, which is weird because I really like the whole Thor Loki dynamic. I think probably the first time I watched it was because I never have really cared for the Thor character, and I kind of liked him in this a little bit. But it wasn't until Avengers, like, he was probably one of my favorite parts of the first Avengers movie, just because I liked, I don't know, a lot of his, like, humory stuff, and he had some of, like, the better moments, like, with Hulk, and, but we'll get to that later. So anyways, I think it's probably because I didn't like Thor that much. Now watching it again, and liking him more, but also, like, just getting to know Chris Hemsworth in these movies and other movies that he's been in since. I really like him. I like the actor. I think I think he's great, and I can see, like, that Chris Hemsworthiness that he brings to it. But also interesting is just how just vastly different mostly him and Loki are now. Loki's just, like, way more just conniving shithead. This, he, like, it's almost like he's not even, like, a god of mischief. He's just, like, he feels like he's been wronged, and, you know, he's like a frustrated little kid. It's just a way different character than the Loki now, and Thor's different because he's more arrogant in this one, and that's his arc in this movie, is he learns to actually become Thor. He actually, you know, becomes a hero somewhat. But just it, like, even when he is kind of, like, more lighthearted, like when he's on Earth and he's just kind of being all, like, chummy there in, like, the diner and he's like that, he's still, like, way different than he is, especially in, like, Thor Ragnarok is just, like, a completely different character, which I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing for them to just be kind of, oh, people like the comedy a little more, they don't like the seriousness, so let's change the characters. I don't know if that's necessarily a good part. So I like them now. Anthony Hopkins is good, of course. Loki is, and probably still is, like, the best MCU villain, and I'm not in the minority in that thought. Like, he's great. Tom Hiddleston brings such a great, I don't know, he's so much more layered than so many of the other Marvel villains, and yeah, he does a good job, and you really, like, care about Loki, and you almost, like, feel for why he does all this stuff, and it's pretty, like, it's a bummer when he, you know, lets go and Thor thinks he's dead or lost, at least, and, you know, it's, yeah, comedy's okay. I like the Hawkeye inclusion a lot more than the Black Widow inclusion in Iron Man 2. I just thought it was cooler that he was in it so little, that he was just in the one scene, and it's like, they didn't outright, like, say, unless you knew who he was, you're like, okay, this guy's an archer, it's probably Hawkeye and all that, but they never really outright said it, and the presence of, the way heavier presence of S.H.I.E.L.D. in this is cooler too. This is the one where they really start to go towards, like, hey, we're doing Avengers. Here's the Tesseract in end scene. Here's the shield. They're this big government thing. It kind of is starting to tie the stuff together. But overall, just I don't know. Everything until they get to Earth is just kind of eh. It just kind of all blends together. The Earth stuff is is a little more interesting, but then the robot comes and it's like, why is there even this robot? It's just kind of pointless. The action is alright, but it's mostly anchored by me liking Chris Hemsworth a lot and me liking Tom Hiddleston a lot and thinking that Tom Hiddleston especially really carries the plot. He carries the movie, he carries the plot. He makes that character. Exploring the 9 realms and it really expanding the movie universe is also really cool of them to do. And it's cool that they are they go to Asgard obviously, but they go to Jotunheim and it's just kind of cool to see a little bit more of an expansion. It's just it's the first movie, and the first movie, the first one that does the space stuff, it's the first Thor movie. They are kind of more centralized, but it just would have been cool to see a little bit more, which they really go more into in the Dark World, and then Ragnarok is different in that way. But yeah, all that the exploring the nine realms is cool. How the human characters are brought into it, even though they kind of seem inconsequential. It really kind of it's to give Thor a someone to talk to. It gives him a soundboard to be like, hey, explain shit, for him to explain to them stuff and them to explain to him stuff, which is all a way of telling the audience stuff. So that's mainly what they are, and also to give him a romantic love interest, which is fine. It just seems not really needed, especially with what eventually happens with her character, which is just kind of dropped off. I keep jumping ahead, but not as pointless as the Doctor Strange romance. But all in all, I hope it doesn't sound like I'm shitting on the movie too much, because I don't think it's bad. Thor, not bad. Thor, okay. It's okay. Thor, my list, I'd put above Iron Man 2 and then below the other two so far. It's, if you're going by my ratings, it's pretty easy to tell so far. It'll get harder as it goes on for me. So, next week is Captain America, the First America movie. The first Captain America movie. It's the first Captain America movie is next week.